Did the F1 Cadillac team steal someone's idea for a Super Bowl commercial? And what does this have to do with Bob Loblaw from Arrested Development? Ron Howard directed some of the great movies of our time, including Apollo 13, but one of his earlier jobs was a movie called Night Shift, starring Michael Keaton. Now, why bring this up? Michael Keaton's character was a self-proclaimed idea man. He came up with all these crazy ideas and he would record them into a tape recorder so he didn't forget them. One of his ideas was to eliminate garbage with edible paper, or to save a step for people making sandwiches by feeding mayonnaise to tuna while it was still alive. But can you sue someone for stealing your ideas? This is the issue in a recent case brought by Michael Bay against the new Formula One Cadillac team. Bay, who you may remember from films like Transformers and Armageddon, films he directed, he claims that the Cadillac team stole his ideas for the Super Bowl commercial. Cadillac's team is new to F1 this year, and they debuted their new car in their livery, as they call it, during the commercial. According to The Athletic, which obtained a copy of the lawsuit, Bay claims that he was courted by the team to direct their commercial. Bay claims he discussed the project with the team and began working on it, even believed he'd been hired. Now he's seeking $1.5 million as well as punitive damages. So why mention this case? In the intellectual property world, that's the area of law protecting patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets, we often talk about protecting ideas, but Michael Bay's case doesn't appear to mention these traditional areas of patents, trademarks, copyrights, or trade secrets. Instead, it looks like he's suing for breach of contract, including what they call an implied in-fact contract, which is when you don't really have a contract, but you kind of act like you do. He's also suing for fraud. So what's the difference between those kind of claims and traditional patent, trademark, copyright, trade secret claims? Well, patents apply to new and useful inventions, and in a sense they do protect the idea of the invention, but there's a whole process for obtaining an issued patent from the government. And the idea itself has to be the kind of things that patents even protect. We sometimes call that patentable subject matter. Patents don't cover every kind of thing. They don't cover every kind of possible idea. I'm not sure if they would cover feeding mayonnaise to tuna fish, but you get the idea. The point is that patents do cover certain new and useful inventions, but not every new idea. Trademarks usually focus on preventing confusion among brands. There may be some ideas about those brands and concepts that those brands demonstrate, but trademark law is really about protecting brands. Copyrights don't protect ideas really either. Instead, they protect the expression of the idea, what you might find in books or movies or artwork or photographs. Trade secrets, which are really the last category of traditional IP protection, can theoretically protect ideas, but they generally need to have been kept confidential and have value by not being known to competitors. Michael Bay's claims in this case likely rely on a different kind of theory, that he shared his ideas after being led to believe he'd been hired, sort of as though he was induced into sharing his ideas in reliance on the idea that he'd been hired for the job. It doesn't sound like there was any kind of written agreement, like a non-disclosure agreement or an NDA, as you sometimes hear it called, but that doesn't necessarily prevent the claims, since not all contracts have to be written down. Now, there is a pro tip here as we come out of Valentine's Day. Some contracts do need to be written down, like any agreement made upon consideration of marriage. That's a quote from South Carolina's Statute of Frauds. So keep that in mind in case you came out of Valentine's Day with some questionable commitments. So why mention Bob Loblaw? There are a few connections here, so just bear with me. Michael Keaton. In the movie Night Shift, his co-star was Henry Winkler. Some of you know Henry Winkler from his original claim to fame as being the Fonz on Happy Days, the TV show that ran in the 1970s and 80s. However, we're partial to Henry Winkler's role as Barry Zuckerkorn, the Bluth family lawyer in Arrested Development. It was Scott Baio who played the Fonz' cousin on Happy Days, and who, in a not-so-subtle reference to Happy Days, then replaced him as the second Bluth family lawyer in Arrested Development. His name was Bob Loblaw, and he had a law blog. You can see a link to one of his commercials in the newsletter. So who narrated Arrested Development? Well, that was Ron Howard, also who was on Happy Days, and who was also the director of Night Shift. That brings us full circle. It's a little bit of a long path to get there, but it gives you an idea of the kind of things we like. If you like this kind of thing, trademark and franchise law, copyrights, patents, and other legal stuff, or maybe if you don't like those kind of things, but you just like trivia and you like to see regular pictures of our canine law clerk, you can like and subscribe, and you can also sign up for our newsletter in the link in the description. We hope you enjoy.